What's up? I'm Kyle.
I'm Brendan.
And welcome to the Brain Buffet.
I feel like they put way too much emphasis on like the saint of the entire thing. I feel like that's kind of whatever. But I feel like more emphasis should be placed on what the cult is.
I agree with you, but I think the reason for that was more of like a communication tactic, because the people that are watching weirdly enough, that's an easier way for them to buy into the craziness,
right?
Versus just the craziness being blatantly straight out in front being told to you. There's kind of a very easy cognitive dissonance where you could just be like, no, that's craziness, and
right.
Your mind doesn't even want to just touch that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like things when I see things like that, I'm like, who's the leader of these? I don't think
the cartel.
Yeah, I think it's the people that open the borders.
Well, sure. Well, that would be your good old resident Biden right now. And that's kind of an interesting you said there, because this is a pretty obvious choice, but I mean, who was the one that said we need to put up a wall? There needs to be some sort of enforced, thorough process that is legitimate.
Right. I don't know, that video is wild, but I mean,
in the video, sorry if we're just tuning in, the video I showed Brendan a video from Jesse Waters, which is a mainstream media from Fox, and they were talking about the border crisis right now and how the cartels are in control of it. And other than the fact of just illegal immigration, because people can obviously assume just on the surface level that there's human trafficking in the sense of placing one human from one area to putting them in another place in another area, that essentially is human trafficking. But the children aspect of it, and the fact that they, whether we believe it or not, they tend to believe in this certain saints of death and whatnot, and the victim abuse on these children is, I mean, you don't even want to go there.
No,
you don't even want to try to understand it, because if you're a sane human being, you shouldn't be able to understand kind of thing.
We can post the link.
Yeah,
in the description.
We can
put
post
that
the
up
link.
there. But yeah,
that's the things that we're not. I mean, thankfully, that is out there to some of the people who maybe aren't looking on alternative sources. But it's real.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I feel like when you're seeing it on mainstream media, though, it's a lot closer than what you're actually anticipating or what you expect.
Closer in the sense of affecting your life?
Not necessarily affecting your life, but with even the people that surround us, but people that are in control of us, essentially. I feel like it's closer in America than what we think. It's not. Well, it's not some head honchos out of Mexico that are controlling this. There's someone controlling them,
and that's the crazy part about it. Well, first of all, there's been violence and evil like this going on forever, everywhere. In
every single religion too,
in Africa and all sorts of places.
You can boil it down to any religion, though. You can boil it down to Catholicism, Christianity. You can put it into.
But the problem, you're right.
Anywhere.
There's been a lot of genocide for sure, but it boils down to the exposure. Like what people are being exposed to. And the fact that most of us, and unless you're involved historian or relatively in the region, and it has ripple effects for sure, but you're kind of removed from that, or at least you don't find out about it until, years down the road kind of thing. Not always. Things obviously have changed as of recent.
Right.
But the fact that that's happening along with everything else right now, and it's all kind of compiled into like one giant just cluster of just badness, just it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, it's all coming together though. You're seeing more and more little pieces intertwining.
Yeah.
So when was that video actually released? When was that?
I just saw it this morning. I have reason to believe it was yesterday, but it could have been.
Okay, so it's recent.
It's recent.
So there was the Ever Given ship.
Mm-hmm.
There's Biden talking about opening borders and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There's ties to the Ever Given ship with Hillary Clinton, apparently. And then now there's a cartel that's also a cult talking about like entering the border with children and all that stuff and exploiting them. Then there's Biden, the administration, whoever it may be in it, essentially giving kids away out of these camps that they're holding kids in.
Literally, it's
Start
insane.
putting the points together. That's just 5 things off the top of my head that I can think of in recent events that were very well-known recent events. And the Evergreen Company has been accused in the past of child trafficking.
It's insane. It's insane. And you're so right, because exactly what you said there is what, if you're stuck on and people kind of ask like what this 3D, 4D, 5D kind of idea is, but the way that I look at it is what you kind of explained there. As you start to like go almost drone perspective, you can see like, wait a minute, it's like a giant web of corrupt evilness, you know what I mean? Like, but if you just look at it on the surface level, you just look like, oh, there's an Ever Given ship that just crashed into the side of the Suez Canal. That's weird, huh? And then usually that's it,
right?
And then oh, the border, yeah, no, that sucks. There's really bad stuff going on over there. But I mean, what can I do? You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't have money to kind of donate or anything like that.
Right.
So there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
So I'm just and that was kind of, if you're looking at it just at that,
Surface
I would call
level.
that even 2D, 3D, because you're not even going in any kind of other perspective, other angle of, just, and it's weird because, again, you're talking about something other than the third dimensional. So you can't assume a third dimensional action would equate to another dimensional action, if that makes sense, So you have to like and that's what I kind of see it as, is like what you talked about earlier when you see like this is tied with that or that tied with this. When you're talking about running the world, there's no coincidences. I mean, things may happen, not necessarily planned, because, sometimes things do happen, but how that's narrated is always controlled.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I'm not, things do happen.
The story that we get behind it is always
not organic.
No, absolutely not. It's always going to be shaped to what they want us to hear.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's why, like, when I can't stand the word coincidence.
Yeah.
I can't stand the word coincidence.
It's wild though. If you look at these stories, one of the biggest things that always comes back to, it's not necessarily us at our level. It's the kids. It's not like young adults or like even teenagers. It goes below that.
Yeah.
It's prepubescent kids. Like it's 10-year-olds and younger. Like, Jesus.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, if you think about it, besides for just the wicked, evil, again, whatever their intentions are, they're forming the youth too.
Yeah.
I
think that's their intention. I think their intention is to corrupt it so extensively that they don't have another way of thinking. There's nothing else.
Think about the poor children too, because if you, not only do you have to bear the trauma, if you are so lucky to live through it and go through the hell that they would expose to you in that time, but then how are you? I mean, maybe you're strong-minded, will enough to. I mean, I guess I would never exclude it entirely, but it would be more likely to say that those could form potentially a reality that would be not very positive going forward because of all the things that you were exposed to. I'm sure the mental barriers and walls that one would put up to kind of protect themselves from those memories.
Yeah, for sure. That would ruin your life.
Of course.
You would essentially be a ruined person. And if you could even survive to become an adult, you're gonna just constantly feel suicidal thoughts. It's gonna be so hard to suppress those thoughts of what happened when you were a child, and you aren't gonna forget that.
No, not without putting out some very borderline mental disorder barriers. Like you'd almost have to create multiple personalities to deal with that.
Well, let's think
and I
about
think
it.
that might be part of the idea. Like, I don't know if you've heard of MK Ultra, but the whole concept, from my understanding, is you break down the psyche so much that they begin to create multiple personalities.
Yeah.
And those multiple personalities you control by influencing the subconscious. And so, therefore, essentially, you're controlling the person because you created a personality that you control within,
Right. Yeah. Think about this. So these are the drug cartels.
Mm-hmm.
They're corrupting all of these children, giving them serious mental problems. When they become an adult, what are they going to turn to try and suppress these feelings? Drugs.
Yeah.
One way or another, whether it be alcohol, opioids,
Sure. It's already
amphetamines,
ingrained.
whatever it may be.
It's been normalized.
And let's go even say they go to a doctor and even get medicine from them. It's still supporting a drug industry.
Sure.
Which it's prescribed by doctors, whatever, but
It's an organized legal drug industry.
Exactly, but it's still being controlled.
Oh, absolutely.
And who's to say
just
that
by cartel members in suits and ties?
Yeah. Well, who's to say that the cartel doesn't even necessarily have their hand in that?
I would say there's a common thread. Probably one of those 3-letter agencies. Not that I know. We're definitely not experts, but that would make sense to me in my head.
Yeah, I mean, they probably have one of the largest accesses to...
Because I would see them as their own thing, and then there's a common thread between them that probably either links them, one helps the other. There's an intertwining somewhere. Sure, maybe. It would make sense to me.
Yeah,
but then again, we're just providing food for thought.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, so they're creating these children with mental health problems to support their cartel industry that they've created.
It's crazy. They're creating basically like little soldiers.
Yeah. I don't fear the cult aspect of it at all. I think that's an irrelevant term that they didn't even need to bring up. I think the cartel enough is a scary enough thought. I think they were using the cult term as like a shock factor to people to get people to try and watch.
Probably. I think the cult factor, to me, I took it as how deep some of these people believe it. When I hear the word cult, I more wrap my head around the idea that some people, whether it be drinking the Kool-Aid brainwashed, or some people are so bought into an idea that there's no reasoning, regardless of what it is, good or bad. That's my idea of a cult, a mindset more so.
Yeah. That's almost how you have to be in the cartel, though.
Sure. And again, cult obviously has a negative connotation, but it could be good or bad. It's more so, my idea is the mindset of that individual or individuals within that group make it different from a group to a cult.
Right. A cult is almost like an extremism.
Sure. Yeah.
Essentially, whether it be good or bad, it doesn't necessarily just have to be a bad thing.
That's the good subcategory. I think that would define it from a group.
Yeah. That's the taking it to the extreme.
And it goes to show, and so you're right, probably a shock factor, but I think it was appropriately used in describing the situation.
Sure, because these people are very extreme.
Very.
It's wild though that they have to provide the shock words to get people to listen.
Some people are in a very deep sleep.
Some people like to be ignorant to situations.
That's true too, and I think that's I don't know. I'm in a hard place right now in the sense of understanding what's more difficult. Completely being oblivious or slightly being aware and choosing not to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how?
Yeah.
How? I understand the idea of wrapping around 3D comforts, but when you really understand that this affects reality, which ultimately are that 3D comfort that you enjoy as well, it's bigger than just that,
Right.
And not that has to consume anybody's life, because I mean, that's not healthy either.
It's almost dreadful to know all of these things though.
It's only dreadful because, and this is my opinion, it's only dreadful because of our past. If we weren't so if we weren't so censored, to everything, we wouldn't have had. It wouldn't be such a big truth bomb. You know what I mean? If we would have figured it out, not us figured it out, but if it would have been allowed to be known.
If it would have been more common knowledge throughout time, essentially. If it wasn't all being dropped all at once.
That's the big problem.
Yeah.
Or not, I shouldn't even say problem. Difficult situation.
Yeah, it's been the suppression through all the time, and you can see it. Now the suppression is a lot more blatantly obvious. And
I think that's part of the point.
Yeah.
It's impossible now to deny that censorship is a real thing. Like almost, I mean, I would say is, but almost 1984 George Orwellian style of censorship in our today terms. Meaning like not necessarily, like a EBS broadcast just programming you everything what you want to do or need to do, but more so all the outlets, the popular outlets that most of everybody uses is not allowing everybody to have an equal voice.
Right.
That is just, I mean,
we should be able to post whatever we want anywhere and it not come up with like, this has been fact checked.
Yeah. The fact checking thing is bananas.
And it's funny because it's independent fact checkers. Who are these people?
Exactly. I mean, that almost ties together. That's almost just adds the legitimacy to that. Almost just like who the whole printing machine.
Yeah,
it's private. Who does it?
Yeah, I feel like most people though don't care about like the fact checking idea though. Most people just like completely ignore that and are like whatever. Some people to an extent probably listen,
but that's the idea of just putting your head back in the sand, because again you get that little idea of well, that's odd, and then just move on. And I think that's kind of what I was getting to, my kind of point that I ran off trails a little bit. But it's impossible to deny censorship is a real thing now. And then it becomes a choice whether it affects you and you care, or whether it doesn't affect you and you care. Because that is something that's, I mean, everybody deserves a voice. Now, whether everybody deserves their opinion to be boosted somewhere, that's another thing.
It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Right.
It's an equal voice.
Exactly.
And people can choose to listen or not. It's the people's choice.
That's the beautiful thing about it is like, if it sucks, people aren't going to listen to it.
Which it comes back to like how we talked about in one of our earlier podcasts about music and like things being censored in music, or like cancel culture in general. People should have the choice to support these people or not. So if there is a awful song with blatant racism, sexism, anything of that nature, people can choose to listen to that if they want to.
Chances
are people aren't going to listen to that. People won't support that music. And you know what's going to happen to the artist that is creating this? They're going to just fizzle out because they're not making any money doing it. They can't make a living doing it.
Or they're going to realize they suck and their views and opinions suck, and maybe have some personal kind of reflection.
Which is also a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Whereas the cancel culture, that doesn't even allow for that.
It to me, honestly, I think it gaslights it. It gives people more of a reason to. It almost justifies it. In a weird way, they're literally, and this kind of goes with the whole defund the police thing, but their proposed solution only inflames the problem.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's insane.
Yeah, so like the Dr. Seuss case, for instance, they took how many ever books out of his estate or whatever, something like that. But everyone was talking about Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Everybody. I guarantee if you look back in his time, his sales spiked.
Oh, for sure. I know Brittany bought some.
Yeah.
I know she got a couple books.
Yeah.
Just recently, I just saw today, you know what the next one that they're going after? Snow White.
Wow.
Because the kiss was, when she was asleep, was non-consensual.
Yeah, of course.
And you know what? Okay. That is a fair argument if we're talking about and it's sad that I would say this, but if we're talking about a new movie, meaning take Snow White out of history. If you're proposing a new movie to me right now, and then you're going to say like, oh, well, the guy saves her by kissing her while she's asleep, maybe forehead. Okay, cool. Yeah. Lips. Well, maybe, I don't know. I'd rethink it. Maybe,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but the fact that it's already out there and I was exposed to it as a child, now me being 20 whatever years after the fact, I'm kind of like, that's crazy. Why would you do that?
Right.
But I think it's because I have nostalgic tied to that, that idea.
For sure. And I feel like that's a thing where it's like,
but what if the whole thing was a psyop? Let me go like, again, super drone perspective here. So subliminally subjecting children to I'm just wrapping my head around the narrative. You know what I mean? What people, I'm putting myself in their perspective. Non-consensual actions. Yeah, right. So you let that program run for a period of time, right? And then over time it builds, of course. This was maybe just the first step. And then even when you made that first original plan, you have, after we give them 25, 30 years of it, we're going to say it's we're going to cancel it. You know what I mean? So then now you've ran that program and now you're running another program to show that program to be bad. And the whole thing becomes one giant whirlwind tornado of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's just a mess.
Yeah. Because where does that movie come from? Disney.
Yeah.
That's as far as I need to go there. Yeah. And again, though, I'm not saying we need to cancel movies.
No.
Just more so understanding the timeline of what could be agendified there.
Yeah.
And
if you don't like it, let it suck.
Sure.
Just leave it at that. You don't need to go out of your way to try and cancel this person, especially with a lot of artists that are kind of like no-name artists or whatever already.
Yeah.
All you're doing by sharing their song or be like, this is so bad, blah, 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 blah. You're just giving them watches. You're promoting it essentially.
The same idea. Your solution is just making the problem worse for you.
Yeah. And then this person's going to look back and see all the numbers, even if they have a ton of dislikes or a bunch of hate on it. It's still got 1 million views. So like, screw it. The last song before that wasn't objective at all. It had 10,000 views maybe, but like they got 1 million.
Controversy sells.
Yeah. So they're just going to keep adding fuel to the fire.
But if you think about that, I think that has more to do with our mindset as a society than anything itself. Now, the capitalism of that I don't want to touch on because, I mean, again, like I said, I think the person's solution is just fueling their problem, but that stems from negativity. You know what I mean? That whole idea is just a negative kind of like, attacking them or saying, they don't deserve this or whatever it is because you don't agree with their content. But if we were not in that negative mindset, then you wouldn't even have those thoughts of giving them that light because you'd only be promoting the stuff you do like, you know what I mean? And so therefore in that mindset, those types of situations would fizzle out because then they wouldn't get those views. But we're in such again, controversy sparks more controversy. So people like to be on the ends and the drama kind of thing. So I think that's stemmed from that negative mindset.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I use social media. I hate it, to be honest. It's hard to get off of. But
oh, by the way, we just made a Clout Hub. If you're checking this video out here, listen to the audio, check out our Clout Hub. It's at the Brain Buffet. We just started it up, so give us a look.
But I use like social medias every now and then, but you never see people posting songs that they like or things that they really like. They always are posting the cancel culture. I see the cancel culture side of things so much, and it's ridiculous. Cancel culture isn't okay.
No, not at all.
It's literally just a thing like we've been talking about. Just let it go if you don't like it. Ignore it.
And it's so childish.
It is.
Honestly, that's, to me, it's the immaturity of it that's the craziest thing ever. And most social medias nowadays have become a complaining board.
Yeah.
There's some people who share some good food or recipes and stuff like that in dog animal videos. Kudos to you out there still doing that. Keep us all sane. But it's become a complaining board.
Yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah. For sure. I don't know. Just let things go. Just It's allowed for things to suck, and that's okay. But we don't. I mean, we have the right to do whatever we want.
Sure.
Really.
Sure. But the childish aspect of like, oh, I don't agree with it. I don't like it. So get it out of here. Just remove it entirely.
Yeah.
Just, cancel it off the face of the earth. Doesn't need to be here.
Right.
Like, what?
And you don't necessarily need to be oblivious to it. It's not like you shouldn't be ignorant to like something being wrong necessarily. But you don't need to go out of your way to try and like cancel it. You don't need to be a Karen.
Information needs to be out there, but it really boils down to just letting the person make their own choice.
Yeah, for sure. And people will see these things and like they won't even give something a chance.
No.
To be like, to use their own thought process for them to know they don't like it. They'll go off what someone else said when maybe someone else interpreted it wrong.
Yeah, I mean, word of mouth definitely spreads because we kind of trust people inherently a little bit more than just something that we don't, not all of us, but versus something that, I mean, maybe not even that, because I'll be honest, sometimes certain videos that are being talked about in the sense of a negative sense, there's kind of a natural, like, why are they talking about this? You know what I mean? And sometimes I'll click play just because, not that I want to be a part of the discussion, but what is stirring up so much crap, you know?
Yeah, I've done that. I mean,
there's a curiosity to it almost.
So like Lil Nas, he released that one song that he just did, and I was just curious. Like everyone's talking about it, and like everyone's like, "Oh, this is so bad." I watched it, and I was like, "This isn't that bad."
Well, it's bad in the sense that you put in perspective that he talked about, and we might have referenced this before, but he talked about how he acknowledged the fact that most of his viewers are children. Why are you showing that to children? Children aren't dumb.
I don't think he necessarily acknowledged that his kids or that his viewers were children or whatever necessarily, but like that comes more so down to the parenting aspect of it. The parents shouldn't just be letting their kids watch this type of stuff.
I agree. The parents are not guilt-free from it for sure. Is it difficult to monitor every aspect of
course,
electronic input?
Yeah.
That's borderline impossible.
Yeah, but I mean,
borderline. But
the kids have access to way worse things than what that is. If they really want to find something.
And I agree with that. But you have to go look for that. This is almost being propped right in front of your face. You know what I mean? It comes to the platform. You know, the video's got like, I mean, it's hard to, regardless of artistic expression, and again, I don't agree with cancel culture, but it's hard to disagree with a potential sexualized, demonic undertone to that video.
Yeah, but I mean,
and again, not saying we should cancel it, no. but
he released it as explicit for adults.
Okay.
So if you wanted to watch it on YouTube, you needed to be logged in to an account that was listed as for mature content or whatever it may be.
That's fair. How many kids out there do you think have made accounts for mature content even though they didn't? Because
who does that come back to?
The parents?
The parents should know that their kids have these accounts that allow them to watch mature content.
And again, I'm not going to let the parents get off scot-free, but
you can't monitor everything.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Especially with everything else going on and trying, but
when it comes to your kids, I feel like you should be a little bit more aware.
Sure. And again, they're not guilt-free. They're not guilt-free. But the more, he's almost, I mean, I don't know, is he 21? He might be 21.
Something like that.
He's young himself.
Yeah.
And regardless if he acknowledged it or not, he should be also aware of his fan base. And again, I'm not saying that he shouldn't have made the song or the content of the video. But the way that his viewership was going, I mean, I could only imagine his managers and his team knew who's absorbing his content.
Sure.
Maybe not to the, I mean, I don't know, maybe they do, but not to the, a single person.
Right.
But relatively understanding. And then all of a sudden, boom.
Yeah.
You drop something like that, plus the shoes too.
Yeah.
The shoe. I mean, I don't even really want to give them too much light as far as, what we're talking about, giving it more of a viewership, because my fiance, I was telling her about it. She said she wanted to watch a video, and I was like, to be honest with you, I don't even want to give them another view count, But
to be honest, though, the video is extremely well made.
Well, it was all computerized and CGI.
Yeah, but it's still really well made. It was a high quality video.
Which even goes to show even further how much money was put into that production. And
for sure.
So,
which, I mean, he
clearly they were trying to get a message out there.
Yeah, but I mean, off Old Town Road alone, he probably was a millionaire. So.
Sure. No, I agree. But even take that in its own sense. Who did he, besides for Billy Ray Cyrus, he also did that I don't know what partnership with that yodeling kid that blew up on the a kid.
Yeah.
So again, already attracting children to
we can
viewership.
We can go back to like what we were talking about earlier, how you can look at like the Ever Given ship, you can look at Hillary Clinton, Biden, the Mexican cartel, all of that. We can go back to that real quick and talk about how the music industry and Hollywood has always exploited children.
Always. Yeah.
It's literally always been a thing. It was pretty much a thing that if you wanted to become an actor in Hollywood, you had to perform sexual favors.
Or sell your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's
pretty much how it was.
There's a great documentary out there, Out of the Shadows, and I absolutely suggest it. It's a beautiful, potent red pill that's not too deep, that's completely off-putting, because again, some of the stuff gets so dark that it's just like you there's cognitive dissonance. There's literally mental security defenses so that you don't just take that on in your psyche right away. But it's a great documentary. It's done by a stuntman. So it was a guy, this guy, and I don't know his name, but please check it out. He started out from the bottom, and he was just a stuntman, and he goes through the whole thing, and his whole idea was he never wanted to be an actor because an actor pretends to play the character while a stuntman actually plays the character.
Yeah.
And, he did all these great movies and all these awesome stunts and stuff like this. And genuinely, he became like one of the greatest.
Right.
And it wasn't until like, I don't know. And again, watch the documentary, but it was like 20 or 30 years or something into the business where he started directing movies himself. So he like worked his way all the way up to the top. And then that's when he kind of had like a little bit of a reality check that he realized that like, how did I get here? And then it kind of like broke down an illusion of progression and the connections and stuff like that.
Yeah. And
I don't want to spoil the whole thing because it's a really good documentary, but it comes from somebody who literally worked the ground up, not exploited the child aspect of it, because he was like 18 or something like that when he first got into it, but he spent his whole life climbing the ladders there, and the things that he saw, was exposed to, that he didn't really digest until after the fact, that he had this reality change. And again, not to spoil it, but it does come from a spiritual aspect that he did discover throughout his life.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's interesting.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's absolutely bananas. But like, we're 90s babies. Think of all the Nickelodeon kids out there. The actors that... And you have the ones that make it on camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about all the ones who didn't make it on camera.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't want to name any names, but there was one, I'm pretty sure he was an executive producer for some Nickelodeon shows. I think he was convicted or charged, or I don't know, maybe it was just, I don't know if it was an allegation. I don't know what it was, but there was at least something in the aspect of him being a child pedophile.
Mm-hmm.
And he still got gigs after that, working with children.
Yeah.
Like, what clown world are we living in where that's even remotely possible?
I don't know if it's the same one you're talking about, but there was a dude that I seen posts about him going around. He's like a dude that has a foot fetish or something like that.
There's a couple of those.
But he's one of the producers for Nickelodeon.
Oh, yeah. I think I know who you are talking about.
I can't remember his name, but so you can look at some of his shows that he's produced, and it's like he's always got these young girls doing weird things with their feet on it. And when we were kids, I didn't think anything of that. Those were just feet. They're doing silly things, like whatever. But like when you go back and look at it and know that this guy has a foot fetish and he's telling these kids to do these things, What? That is disgusting.
How?
And it's
how?
It's not. It's often.
Yeah.
Like,
no, we are talking about the same person then, because I did know about that as well. And there was like certain aspects of the show where they would like do intros and they would just be the feet, and it's just like,
yeah,
what?
Yeah.
And you're right. As a kid, you have no idea, because
it's just feet.
Yeah. Well, no, you have a pure mind. You don't even think of those things.
Honestly, even to this day, I'm just like, oh, it's just feet. It's whatever. Like, it's just feet.
Well, that's, yeah, for sure. A normal or a sane person would.
Yeah. But when someone is sexualizing that's when it's wrong. If this guy was just like having these girls do these things, like they're just doing normal things, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's when it comes down to the sexualization of it that is disgusting.
Well, right. And I guess let me propose a situation here. I think I remember a scene in one of the Nickelodeon shows where they were basically, an innocent action in the sense that they were smashing grapes, right?
Right.
They do that all the time to make wine. Like, there's anything about that makes it any sort of lucrative or...
No, not at all.
Not even a slightest bit. But one executive producer for a show or director for a show or whatever, what place you want to put them, just a normal person. And I say normal person in the sense of normal... I shouldn't say the word normal, but socially accepted... I don't even want to say that. Doesn't have a foot fetish. Okay, let me just say that. Yeah. Just straight and bluntly, this person does not have a foot fetish, and then this person does have a foot fetish. The intention behind the scene now is very different. You know what I mean? Yeah. From A, which who does not, and then B, which who does.
Yeah.
And that goes to show with almost like anything, as far as, I might not believe it, but if that person believes it, or if that person has that, enjoys that perspective or whatever like that, then it makes it real for them.
Yeah. What do? You fire that guy.
Oh, sure. That
guy's gone.
There needs to be accountability for everything.
It's not that, like, these things should stop happening where, like, oh, they're smashing grapes. Like, that's whatever. Like...
No, right. No.
That's normal.
Exactly.
That is completely normal. That's a normal instance. It's a normal thing to make a video of whatever. And director A has a pure mind with it. It's just like, oh, they're just making some wine or whatever, making juice. And then director B over here, he's like,
zooming in on the feet or whatever.
Like, that's disgusting. That guy needs fired. And the fact that it's so well known, even like you can go onto the dude's Twitter and it shows him posting like, oh, let me kiss your feet and stuff like that, and let me give you a foot massage and stuff. Like, it's very obvious that this dude has a foot fetish. It's
insane. And you're right. Accountability is what needs to happen. That is how you fix it. Because if people see, and think about this, say a young director is observing this and maybe he has a different strange fetish. Well, he's now seeing that being okay. There's no repercussions to it. Yeah. And I don't want to make it so direct that every single person has something like that, but you don't know.
Well, here's the thing. It is okay to have these fetishes or whatever it may be. But when you're exploiting kids for the intentions of how you want to see it,
right,
that is when it's disgusting.
Okay, yeah. The big aspect there is children. And you're creating a child show.
Yeah. So if this director had this foot fetish, that's normal. That's okay. But when you're exploiting the kids to do the things that you want, and then sexualizing it, that's when it's disgusting.
So again, let's put that same scenario. You got director A who does not have a foot fetish, and you have director B who does have a foot fetish. Paint the new scene, same situation, smashing grapes, although they're 25-year-old girls just smashing grapes. Now I don't think it necessarily matters. Creating just a normal program. So in that situation, or I should ask, in that situation, is it okay? Because now the intention doesn't necessarily matter, because it's being directed towards an of-age consensual person versus obviously a child does not have that means.
Right. Yeah. That's a lot more acceptable.
Still weird though.
It is a little weird.
Still weird because
it's still a little weird, but in that instance, I think it's one of those things that he's not acting upon. So it's kind of like,
and not that I think we're singling out a specific scene.
Right.
So if this is a whole movie, say we're making, it's like a homemade wine documentary.
This is a 20-second scene out of it.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Like an hour and a half homemade wine documentary, a 20-second scene where they're smashing grapes.
And they're just showing how it's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, that's normal. I think that's okay. As long as this director isn't acting on it in a weird way.
Yeah.
But when you're sexualizing the children,
I think, yeah, no, you're right. And I think
it's the sexualizing children that is the biggest problem.
Absolutely.
Because that's coming back to like, that's pedophilia.
Exactly. You're right. Because of your sexual preferences, that does in a form of a way make it a pedophilia act.
And it's wild to think how like normalized it has almost become. Because let me give you this.
All because of Snow White getting kissed.
Right. Well, let me give you this instance. So, a singer, what's their name? Billie Eilish. She just turned 18. But when she was 17, like, I seen so many people commenting, like, how attractive she was and stuff like that. And, like, people like my age. I'm about to be 28 years old.
Yeah.
So, like, there's an 11-year age gap, and she is an underage woman.
Mm-hmm.
A girl. She's still essentially a child. She's almost 18, but like she was only 17. Everyone's like, oh, she's so attractive. And then the second she turned 18, everyone was like going off about her, literally the day, like to the day. And it was kind of like, wow, like you guys have been waiting for this moment. That's in my head.
What do you mean going off in a positive sense of continuing the attraction?
Yes, but sexualizing. But even sexualizing her when she was 17 still.
Yeah. A lot of that, unfortunately, I think comes down to the state that they live in. You know what I mean? In certain states, I think you can consent at 16. You know, so
that's the age of consent, but they're still a child.
You're absolutely right. And so when it comes to verbal expression, though, I'm sure if you have a good enough lawyer, you can make a case. But
right.
You know what I mean? If you're it's hard. I don't know. Is it hard to prove consent through verbal communication? You know what I mean? Just like, you're attractive, smiley face.
But
you know what I mean?
It goes beyond that. It's not just like, oh, you're so attractive. It's
fair.
Exploiting sexual parts of their body, whatever it may be.
Yeah, you're right.
When it's going to that, it's like, wow. And it's so normal. Like, I was like...
And it's out there in the open.
Yeah.
Like people
openly talking about it. Like, on their billboards, on whatever social media platform it may be. It's like, wow, that is not okay.
No.
It doesn't... The fact that people are waiting for a young girl to turn 18 and the day of, they say it's okay. It's like...
Well, it just goes to show the intention all along.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, the whole time.
For sure.
But they wanted to be legal under state law.
Yeah. They just didn't want to go to jail.
Yeah, literally. That's all it is. And it's like, wow, that's sad.
Yeah, no, it's horrible.
Like I said, though,
but it goes to to me, it's more of a sickness of mentality of how people are, and I don't know. Maybe that was programmed. I mean, it's weird, and I don't want to give people a justified escape because it's disgusting. Yeah. It's wrong. You need to come to an awareness of what's right or wrong. You know what I mean? Regardless if we had corrupt programming from the start. But what if? I mean, it kind of has been.
Yeah,
weirdly enough.
For sure. I mean, we can go back to Disney. I know you say you don't want to give too much to them, but like you can look at like almost any program they've ever put on, and it's got crazy subliminal messages within it somewhere, one way or another.
Do we just bring awareness to that? You know what I mean? Because again, we're kind of getting to the Snow White idea where like, you know, they're trying to cancel it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
No.
But the only answer is...
Honestly, I think one of the biggest things to do rather than canceling something is to not expose your children to it.
What's more impactful of that? Not exposing your children to it, or exposing the hidden meanings behind it so that they know what it is? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying you sit down a 4-year-old child and you tell them like consensual sex and non-consensual sex consensual kissing and non-consensual kissing in a Snow White movie.
Well, I mean, honestly, that's kind of a good thing to teach kids at a young age, because like from when they're babies, you're kissing them. Like
you're right. I don't have children, so I don't have that learning curve yet.
So it's kind of like you do teach children hugging and kissing is a consensual thing. The kissing isn't sexualized at all, obviously. But like you teach them that it's a consensual thing. If your brother doesn't want a kiss or a hug, you don't give him one. As simple as that.
Fair.
So you teach them your body, your choice, essentially.
Okay.
But
getting parenting lessons over here.
Yeah. But when it comes to things like Snow White, for instance, Snow White's a little bit different because you can teach kids while watching Snow White that like he unconsensually kissed her and that wasn't okay. Mm-hmm. You don't do that to people. You can teach them that. But when you're watching things like The Little Mermaid, you can't like
pause it and point out the giant phallus in the back. Like, you see that? That's no, yeah, you
don't point out things like that to kids.
That's okay.
But like
that does make a big difference between what you're specifically pointing out. That makes sense.
But you don't let them watch that.
Right.
Things like that. Or when
you're watching Beauty and the Beast and you teach them about toxic masculinity.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Which, I mean, that's a little more acceptable. I'm trying to think of other instances.
This is what a giant ego looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't think of any other instances in specific, but like things like that, you don't exploit them to.
No, that makes sense.
Like it's a extremely sexualized thing, because a kiss to a kid is just a kiss. It's like a way of showing like kind of affection or whatever it may be. It's not like a kiss as a child is not a sexual thing at all.
Right. And I think a big distinction between that is that is more of an action that you can point out and explain versus the Little Mermaid or the other ones. It's kind of just an image that is just a still image, or whether it be, I can't remember if it was Aladdin that the, SEX was in the stars or something like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to pause that and point that out. But an instance where there is an action that you can explain further of like, oh, this is the reason why they're doing it. This is why it's bad. That makes more sense because there is actually a learning lesson there.
Yeah.
But you have to explain that versus just eating popcorn and letting the whole movie go out.
Right. Yeah. Because when you just let the movie go on, then the kids are taking that in. They're like, well, he did it. So I'm okay to kiss someone even if they don't want it.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that's kind of, I mean, again, I'm not a parent, so I can't just make this assumption, but some parents, I think, sometimes forget that children are literally a blank slate just to be programmed.
Their brains are sponges.
They're literally waiting for things to just tell them what this is and how to react to this. And I say this is in like reality, the world, you name it, every part of it, whether and they got to get it from somewhere. And I say, get it, understanding of what it is.
Right. Knowledge and everything, whatever it may be. Their brains are literally sponges and they take everything in. Every little action they see, they absorb.
And that's kind of scary if you're not aware of what you're doing.
Yeah. And then while they're absorbing that, they replicate. That's just what it is. They're like, this is how I know this is. So they'll replicate that instance.
And not that it's, final set in stone, because I personally know through my own experiences and even yourself, I think that you can, at some point you can become aware of the situations and you can make a choice not to, or
you can utilize that to better yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. But that takes a conscious understanding.
Yeah.
If you're not aware of yourself, you're not going to be able to make those changes.
Which in some instances it can be too late though. When people are capable of making that choice to change.
I would disagree with that. I don't agree with the whole idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Only because I would maybe be more easily to accept that you can't teach an old dog how to be aware of himself, because it takes an awareness to be able to make true changes. But so as long as you're aware of your self and situation, you know what I mean? Like you can change your routine. So as long as you're conscious that you set your routine, or, you know what I mean? But
well, I more so mean in the idea of the actions may have already been done to create whatever it may be. So like, I don't know, maybe a sexual assault happened.
Gotcha.
Or things of that nature.
Gotcha.
I more so mean that it may be too late to change for that. Sure, you can teach anyone
what if
something new.
What if there's potentially, and I don't know, just hypothetical food for thought here, there's a medical technology that comes out to where you can consensually choose through your own, let's just say, conscious power to maybe not delete or erase, but to nullify or remove the negative pain emotional responses from certain previous memories. So you don't have the and again, maybe you can delete it if you want to, but to me, choosing to delete a memory is kind of strange. So that's why I'm kind of leaving it on limbo, that you could just, and again, hypothetically, just remove the negative aspects that stem from that, the anxieties, the depression, the fear, the pain, the suffering, you know? And so you could have that flashback, but it's not triggered by any physical response by your body, you know? And what if?
As long as you're capable of keeping the idea that it was still negative and these things shouldn't be happening, I could see it being beneficial. So you would still have to have the understanding of what happened and that it's not okay.
And I think part of that just starts with not blaming yourself.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know this. My life hasn't the easiest. It also hasn't been horrible either. You know what I mean?
Right. Same.
But I think those are partly what actually make you grow, the pains and the stuff that come from it. So it's, in my personal opinion, it's necessary to a degree. And I'm not talking about sexual abuse or anything to the extreme. That should never happen to anyone at all. But certain difficulties, I think, are very beneficial more than just straight guidance, you know, and not that and that's kind of the difficult thing about it being a parent. And again, I'm not a parent, but I can only imagine adversity only just makes tougher people, you know, but you also don't want your child to go through a bunch of adversities, because that means you're not necessarily doing, or it seems as if you're not necessarily doing your job. Yeah. But I can only imagine it being a very weird balance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people grow more off of the negative things that happen than the positive.
Yeah, but I think that stems from more mentality of society, like we were talking about before. Everything is just stemmed from this negativity mindset versus people don't talk about good stuff enough or as much as people talk about negative stuff.
Right. Yeah, for sure. There's I don't know how to necessarily word it, but there's a lack of positivity, I guess, just to put it simply.
For sure. Or desire for positivity, because there's positivity out there, you know, like little actions such as opening the door for someone, or, you know, things like that. But
if you don't hold the door open, you're the worst person in the world. It can be viewed as that, but
it could be
when you don't.
But then again, though, I think that would stem from a victim mindset, because then you're expecting somebody to do something for you. Like, no, they open the door for themselves, just as if I'm going to open the door for myself now, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I've had people give me ugly looks when I don't hold the door for them, because, like, I don't know, they might be a little bit too far away or whatever. I'm kind of in a hurry, or I don't notice them, whatever it may be. Yeah. Generally, I do hold the door open for people, but, like, it shouldn't be an expectation that I hold the door for you.
No, that was.
It should be considered a kind gesture. But when I've held the door for a lot of people and haven't even got a thanks or like a smile, like even a smile, like just a little smile. I
try to make eye contact. I I don't stare them down, but I'm like just waiting for like, yep, hey,
yeah, that's all.
You gonna acknowledge me here, because I'm acknowledging you clearly.
Yeah, right. It doesn't take any physical effort or mental effort to do it. It's just like a little gesture of holding a door. Like, it's not a big deal, but you get way more of a negative reaction when you don't do it than a positive reaction when you do, generally speaking.
Yeah, I could see that. And you said it very well earlier. It's like a little action, but what the crazy thing about that little action is like we feel so individualized in this giant, crazy, chaotic world that all it takes is just a little bit of acknowledgement from another person. Nothing crazy, nothing depth. Most of us don't want a long conversation with somebody. No. Just a little, hey, I see you. You see me. Like, we're still
literally just thanks.
We're in this craziness together.
Yeah, for sure. And then you just expect a thanks out of it.
Yeah.
You don't really expect it. You don't have to expect it. Nobody's required to do anything for you, even if you do something for them.
No, not an expectation of like a thanks, but just some sort of expectation of acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Whether it's literally even just eye contact.
Yeah,
just like,
for sure.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
It's funny though, because like when someone doesn't like acknowledge that I did a kind gesture for them, it almost makes me mad. Like it almost makes me feel a certain type of way. Like,
well, it's kind of because you put yourself out there a little bit and, kind of got stepped on.
Yeah.
And I'm
not much of a put myself out there person.
And that kind of makes it more impactful for your own personal experience anyways, for sure. Right. Yeah. And it's tough nowadays because with everything going on, it's further. And that's one of the scariest parts about what's going on in the world today and what they're forcing us to do. And I'm going to use the word force, but these masks, they even further isolate and individualize people, and it's turned people against each other.
Yeah.
You've made other people the enemy, and that is like super scary.
Yeah, everyone's expected to stay 6 feet from each other. You can't see insane micro expressions and stuff of each other. Like someone makes a little mouth gesture, you can't see it or whatever,
or a smile.
Yeah.
Or and that's so hard, especially for me in my line of work. Communication is everything, and if I can't see people's faces, well, how am I supposed to truly know?
Right.
Body language is like 95% of communication, and it's so crazy the fact that I don't know.
And most of it's in the face.
Yes.
Most of the body language is in the face.
The eyes, the nose, the mouth. You know what I mean? Like,
which you can still see someone's eyes, but their eyes only tell so much.
Well, I was thinking about this. Could you imagine being deaf during this time? And you would mainly, if somebody doesn't speak sign language, you read lips.
That'd be insane.
You would not be able to understand. You wouldn't be able to communicate with people.
Right.
You already had difficulties. Now it's further removed.
Yeah, for sure.
If at all, there.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. I've never really looked at that aspect of it, to be honest. I had until just now. That'd be wild.
In my line of work, I had a couple. They were checking into the hotel, and they were. I don't know if both of them were deaf. I think they both were, because they didn't really talk to me, but maybe they were just so well together. Right. But they had essentially a conversation with like nothing. Like there was the most minimal amount of hand gesture. I think they might have done like 3 things with their hands, but they had everything figured out somehow. It blew my mind. Like I honestly believe they were telepathic with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I was just kind of sitting there because I knew I had to approach the situation more specific, more detailed. You know what I mean? I had to kind of be more thorough with it, but they shocked me in the sense that they, were able to understand each other with almost nothing.
For sure.
I wonder if they would still be able to do that now if they had to wear a mask. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was the mouth or what, if they were telepathic, but
right. I wonder if that comes down to like losing a sense
and gaining another. Because they say like if you lose power in one, another
all of your
one
other heightens or whatever,
or
maybe
one heightens more, or the other one's heighten a little bit more each. Have you seen the documentary where that one guy, we're kind of getting on a little side trail here, but he's blind and he rides a bike, and how he rides a bike is he uses echolocation. Like he literally taught himself how to click his tongue, and so it's so detailed that he was in the woods, or somebody was, they were in the woods together, and there was a tree that was fallen over. It was, I don't know, probably about 4 or 5 feet high, and then it kind of timbered over.
Yeah.
Using his echolocation, he could tell using his hand about how high the tree was before it fell over, where it angled.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So he could physically put dimensions on
That's crazy.
objects around him.
That's incredible.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
Like, he was drawing a map of the place with just the sound that he heard back and how it reverberated off of things.
Right.
I was mind blown.
So, I mean, that's how bats see as well, or whatever, that
Exactly.
location.
This
But
guy's
like, wow.
Right. And
Yeah.
he had to have trained himself to do it. You know?
For sure.
I couldn't.
That wouldn't just be a learned thing, or just like a known thing.
It was bananas.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy. I don't know. That could be with deaf people, though, is like gaining another sense. I know a lot of deaf people can use like vibrations, though. Like they can feel like music and stuff like that. I've heard that many times, that deaf people can feel the vibrations of music and they can enjoy that.
Wow. Have you heard of the? Sorry, go ahead.
I've seen at a lot of concerts I've been seeing lately is like someone will interpret the songs with sign language.
No way.
They'll translate it with sign language. It's crazy.
What?
It's super crazy to watch because there'll just be someone up on the stage while the vocalist is singing or whatever it may be, and they're just doing sign language to the lyrics, and like they're getting into it too and stuff. It's like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, you're still having. I mean, you're still feeling the music, whether you can hear it or not. You're still feeling.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I'm sure they can feel like the different frequencies hitting them in different ways. So when there's like heavy bass, I'm sure they can like feel it hitting their chest, and like guitars and stuff probably hit a different way. It's just wild that they can go to these concerts and just do sign language. And to go off of that, I seen another video. A father and a daughter went to this concert. I can't remember who it was. It was 3 Days Grace, I think, maybe.
Okay.
But they were sitting there in the middle of the people, and like everyone gave him a little bit of room because she was doing sign language to him. And translating all the songs to him because he loves the band. So he feels it in a way that allows him to like hear what's going on.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It goes to, I mean, that kind of further explains what I perceive as what we're all doing, but that makes it more practical, that we're all kind of mini universes experiencing a giant universe all together collectively. You know,
for sure.
They have to do it. Those with those, I don't even want to say disabilities, because though it looks like a disability to us in certain ways, it's an advantage of what can be achieved. Like that, that echolocation thing is literally a superpower.
It's an adaptation.
Yeah, there you go. But that's, it's an experience of this reality in a different way.
Yeah.
And who's to say if it's something like that, you can't say is better or worse or good or bad.
No.
That is just an experience that individual's going through.
Yeah, in their own way.
But the fact that other people are able to make that help,
right,
like with the sign language, that's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's super cool, and it's cool to watch too.
Could you imagine being a sign language interpreter for like a heavy metal band or something like that?
That's what I've seen it for, though.
That's absolutely
it's
awesome.
Crazy. I'll have to show you a video once we're done with the podcast. But it's crazy because like they're up there headbanging and stuff, and the vocalist will be screaming, and you can't really understand what he's saying.
Just
but
like slamming your hands out there.
They do. It's super cool. It's really cool to watch. You should check it out if you haven't seen anything like that. It's super cool.
Yeah, no, I definitely, listeners definitely should check that out.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point to end it on. Let's
Sure, let's wrap it up with that.
Yeah, let's think of a positive thing to say. What do you think? I don't know. Be more positive. Yeah. Let's just be more positive. Quit buying into all the negativity that's around. Post something positive.
Open the door for someone, and if somebody doesn't open up the door for you, don't be upset with it. Just open up the door for them on the way out. Spread that positivity. Don't engulf yourself in the negativity. Know that it's there. Be aware of it, but use that as the fuel to embrace the positivity.
Yeah, For sure.
And we appreciate you guys listening to us, hanging out. Every Wednesday at 5 p.m., we will be dropping new podcasts. We're on Buzzsprout, Clout Hub. Check us out. We've got all major platforms, and we're out of here.